Hi, everyone. We are currently just waiting for one more panelist to join, and then we're going to get started. Hi, for those of you who have just joined, we're still waiting on one more panelist to join, and then we'll get started. Hi, everyone. It looks like we have a good amount of people to begin, and all our panelists are here. So, welcome to Designers of the Digital World. One second. Welcome to Designers of the Digital World, the first MAP speaker series of 2021 presented by Student Leadership. My name is Naomi, and I'm the head of the MAP Speaker Series Committee.
Hi, everyone. I'm the other head of the MAP Speaker Series Committee.
Today, we've invited 4 speakers to talk about their career journeys and share any advice they have learned along the way. We all respectfully ask that you remain muted as our panelists share their stories in order to make sure their voices are heard.
Naomi and I have prepared questions for discussion among the 4 speakers. After the speakers have finished discussing the questions, we will be hosting a 15-minute Q&A where anyone in the audience can ask questions. We will begin recording right now. So today we have Grace Lang, Ari Krusizek, Alexa Curtis, and Megan Miles.
Grace is a designer at Electronic Arts and the founder and design lead of the Design Buddies community with over 15,000 members. She does user experience and product design, as well as leading a team to build the community, host virtual events, and design the website. She has her own art business and designs merchandise, and also creates content for social media and her blog to help students, designers, and community builders with a total following of over 40,000 people.
Ari is the co-founder of Evanston and a digital marketing agency known as Cicolafia. She has over 10 years of branding and design experience and projects ranging from graphic design to digital design. Continuing her creative exploration, she enjoys peer collaboration and guiding and mentoring women entrepreneurs.
Raised in Connecticut, Alexa Curtis, at just 12 years old, started a fashion blog. It became a platform for her to express her feelings around everything relating to teens, body image, and mental health. In 2018, Alexa founded the Be Fearless Summit. She also spoke alongside Amal Clooney and Serena Williams at Penn Women. In addition, she has launched her own radio show on Radio Disney. When Alexa is not hard at work, she meditates frequently and makes time for hobbies like cooking and exercising.
Megan leads a team of designers at Kinza, a healthcare startup. Prior to Kinza, Megan created experiences for gyms across the country and worked for other graphic design roles. She has degrees in design and psychology and is passionate about startups in the wellness and education space. In her spare time, she can be found mentoring young women in STEM fields, wine tasting, rewatching the Harry Potter series, or developing her next wild Pinterest collection.
We will now be asking the panelists questions. These questions are designed to resemble a discussion between the various speakers.
First off, we're going to start with some questions to get to know you, all the panelists, better. So Grace, we'll start with you. We see that you're a founder and the design lead of Design Buddies. Could you tell us a little bit about this organization and what motivated you to create it?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. Super excited to be here. And so I actually was born and raised around San Jose. I went to Lynbrook High School. So I've actually I was running cross country and track. So I've often ran to Saratoga High School before, ran some cross country meets. So super excited to be here today. And all throughout high school, I actually wanted to be an anime artist. A lot of the people at Lynbrook, and I feel like around the Bay Area, were always convinced to go into like science, like STEM fields. So I was kind of influenced by that as well. As an avid cross country and track player, as an avid cross country and track runner, I was always interested in the human body and like knowing how to biohack myself to run faster. So I actually majored in bioengineering in college. Later I went into game dev, so I studied bioengineering and computer engineering. And then afterwards, because I didn't come from a traditional design path, I actually never taken a design class before in college or in high school. I really liked design from game design, and I really wanted to learn more about it. However, I had professors at school who were always really discouraging me and always convinced me to go into engineering because that was apparently the quote unquote safe path. So I tried looking online for mentors or just like finding a design friends, but I felt like it was kind of hard to meet people online, especially during the pandemic. So I felt like I want to just make some design friends. So I've made this Discord server called Design Buddies, just like friendly buddies. And I wanted to make it like an inclusive community where anybody interested in design can feel comfortable and safe and asking questions without feeling judged. And that's how Design Buddies is born. And since then, since April 2020, when I founded it, it has grown to almost 15.7K members. And we got like sponsored by like Adobe, partnered with Discord and stuff. So it's super exciting. It all started because I had no friends in design, professors who were not supportive of me, parents who were skeptical of my major. And I just want to find some camaraderie online. So that's how Design Buddies was born. It turns out a lot of people felt the same way I did. So they joined Design Buddies. And yeah, that's how Design Buddies was formed.
Wow, that's so inspiring, especially how it came from a place of where you weren't sure of yourself and what you were doing, and you got something really, really positive, and it looks like a lot of people really resonated with you. And I'm one of those members, by the way, so thank you for creating that community.
Of course.
So Alexa, becoming an entrepreneur at such a young age is definitely not an easy task. What inspired you to start that journey, and what do you do now?
So I started blogging back before everyone had a blog. Back in 2011, I was 12. I'm from a really small town in Eastern Connecticut. No money, no connections. And I started the blog as a fashion blog, just really because I didn't have a lot of friends. I really struggled in school, wasn't even thinking I would be able to get into college. And over the past 10 years have built it out into this lifestyle platform on social media, mental health, being fearless. I'm 23 now, so it certainly has evolved over the years, but I didn't ever expect to be an entrepreneur. So it's really cool that it's happened. And I love talking to young people like yourself to inspire you to do things that get you out of your comfort zone.
That's amazing, especially like starting at such a young age. I think it takes a lot of courage, obviously, for people, and I can't imagine that as well. But you're one of my biggest mentors and inspirations, so thank you for being that.
Love you. You too.
Megan, it's interesting that you work in design within the medical field. In your experience, how does design play a role in the healthcare industry?
Well, I think design plays a huge role in the healthcare industry, and designers have a huge opportunity to improve our experiences with it. I think it's hard to find an area that's as important and complex as our healthcare system here in the US. And I think that's been even more obvious as we've been navigating everything around COVID, right? Many of our systems are broken, they're out of date, we're not using current technology, it's confusing and it's hard to navigate for everybody involved. when we're thinking about doctors who are just trying to provide the best care so we can feel better faster, down to patients who are just trying to understand that information so that we can feel better faster. Design has a huge opportunity to come in and help improve those experiences. And the exciting part is that there's so many different facets of design that can help with that. When we think of graphic or brand designers, they maybe could design a brochure, a pamphlet you might see in a doctor's office that really helps people understand common conditions and symptoms in an easy, in a very clear manner. And you think of user experience and product designers, which is what I do. We could help design an app that helps people get better access to information and manage their health all in one place. You think of an app, it's on your phone, you've always got your phone on you, therefore you've always got access to it all the time. Even down to like packaging designers. You think of somebody that gets a brand new medical device that they've got to take home and set up for the first time and use on their own. Packaging designers can really help people set up that device for the first time and get started using it so that that experience and dealing with whatever condition they have is a little bit easier, right? Design also has a huge responsibility and plays a critical role in really empathizing with their audience. A lot of times people don't think about the complexity that comes with designing for healthcare. When you are making a doctor's appointment, are you always in the best mood? Probably not, right? You're sick, you want help, you want to get support. And so when our healthcare system, like for lack of better words, sucks, like making a doctor's appointment or trying to get a hold of somebody, or let's say you're going to the hospital and you're just trying to find your new doctor's office and you can't figure out the signage, it's that much more frustrating because you don't feel good or you're upset, right? So design plays a huge role in empathizing with our audience to try to make those experiences better. And that's why I love working at Kinza, where I get a chance to use all my different design skills and my background in psychology to really connect with the people who are using our smart thermometers and our app. And so I get a daily reminder that improving experiences with healthcare, especially around COVID, is really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also your app, Wilkins is developing an app, and also its own website is very helpful even right now in the pandemic. So yeah, thank you for devoting your time to helping out so many people. Especially, I hope you can talk about it later, how your thermometers are helping out with the coronavirus and how you're tracking how bad the flu can spread. That's also really, really cool.
Ari, as a co-founder, could you tell us a little bit about your company, Psycholophia, and why you decided to found it?
Yes, it has quite a long backstory, but I'm going to try my best to kind of make it brief. When I was in high school, I honestly did not know that I was going to be a designer. I just wanted to skip college, to be honest. But my parents was like, no, you are going to school. And I was raised in Bali, Indonesia. And a lot of the time, people in my area, or honestly, in my family, everybody goes to tourism school or they're all in tourism. I did not want to be in tourism, to be honest. So I was like trying to really figure out like, what do I really want? I mean, I didn't really have a clear, path or even like inspiration in terms of like, I don't know what I want, to be honest. But my parents was like, here's a scholarship application, just fill it out. You don't have anything to lose. You might as well just go for it. So I did that. I got the scholarship, but I realized I actually did not want to go there at all, even though I got the scholarship. And I got inspired about this advertising, design, and it really got my interest. So I turned down the scholarship and I told them I'm going to go to art school. It's like, bad idea, by the way, especially if you have Asian parents. But it was kind of interesting because I almost feel like I'm trying to really find my voice and really trying to find like my aspiration. So that happened. I went to art school, got my bachelor degree, and I started working at a very popular hospitality industry. And as a graphic designer there, it was really fun to understand like, okay, my role as a designer, what I can create, and the impact that I will be creating through my design. However, being, in Bali, you don't have a lot of exposure. You don't really have a lot of resources, to be honest. And at the time, I was already engaged with my Now, husband, he asked me this question, Ari, you sound like, I mean, it looks like you're really enjoying your work, but I'm really curious how much do you get paid per month? And I told him it was honestly $250 per month. And he was like, you mean you add another zero? He's laughing right now. You mean you add another zero at the end? I was like, no, it's just 250. And he immediately thinking like, okay, you need to learn more about like design freelancing. I think that will really open up more of your interest. So I did that. I quit my job 2 weeks after that. My parents think I'm crazy again. But I went through that, but it was just so interesting because I never even knew that freelancing was an option. So it was really shown there's a really lack of like knowledge and options and resources basically for women in Bali at that time. So that was me pretty much starting off as a freelancer. And then 2 years after that, my husband and I decided that we're just going to maybe move to Chicago for now. And then I decided that, okay, let's do that. Right after we got married, he proposed to me again and say, Ari, would you like to be my business partner? And I was like, are you okay? That's fine. Bad idea. Honestly, if you just got married and then you build a business with your spouse, I think that is rather unique experience. But because we feel like we're just so passionate about what we do. I mean, I'm primarily in the design and all the creative side of things in our company, and he's on the technical aspect. We have this like very unique point of view about approaching projects, approaching, business problems. So for us, through that passion, we want to really create like the life we really want, like the flexibility that we want. At that time, I envisioned that when I do have kids, I would love to have the flexibility to be, just like create my own schedule and also like attend my kids' needs, or maybe just like really figuring out how to spend time with them while I can also still do the work that I love to do. So that really is what really got me inspired to build the company. And today I do have my little one. He's 5 years old. It has been really amazing to be able to work like remotely, and we build our own remote culture with our team as well. And it has been quite an interesting journey. I'm not going to say it's all rainbows and unicorns. It's definitely not. There's always big ups and downs, especially if you are an entrepreneur and you choose to be an entrepreneur. It's not always going to be pretty. There's always going to be time when you're doubting yourself. I always had that, but you need to have the support that you need so that you can, push yourself back up again.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. And especially how you came from like Bali and like you were originally, your parents wanted you to go into tourism, but you kind of fought against the odds. And I'm sure that must be really hard. But you, in the end, decided to follow your heart, especially with your business as well and your husband. That must have been really tricky balancing both of them. But thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for telling me about yourselves. We're going to move on to more of the general questions. Feel free to answer any of these questions and add on to another speaker's response if you'd like. So for our first question, we're going to start off with what does a day in the life of your job look like? And anyone can just jump in and take this one.
Okay, I'll start. I think every day is certainly different. I have kind of two divisions of my company. So I started a summit program back in 2018. So I would say I spend like half the day kind of talking to my team with that about expanding to different colleges and the social media for the page. And then the rest of the time, I'm filming a podcast episode or website content. Anything like sponsored usually gets done first. Meditating and working out usually takes like an hour and a half of my day. And yeah, what else? Writing blog posts, a lot of social media based stuff.
I can go next. I feel like my day is also different from day to day, but typically morning, it's team meeting stuff. We typically have meetings with our team member just to kind of see like what's going on yesterday, what's going to happen today, and what we really need to tackle within the next few days. And aside from that one, there's always like, fire to put out, in my opinion. There's always going to be like, hey, we need like updates in here. We need to updates on that one. And planning typically happens throughout the day as well. I typically theme my day. So around Tuesdays and Thursday, I would typically take like lead intro calls. So that typically always booked up with calls. And on the other days, I would, I really try my best not to do calls because then I get super exhausted. I also need to dedicate a lot of my efforts and energy to something else, which is on projects or like on business development side of things. So I try my best to balance them all, but sometimes, you can also be flexible as much as you want by not sacrificing your boundaries, obviously. But if you can try to at least theme your day, I think that would be very helpful so that you can try to set your boundaries as well.
Yeah, for me, every day is totally different. I work full-time as also product UX designer at Electronic Arts. So I work 9 to 5. So it's always a lot of meetings, collaborating with engineers, collaborating with product managers. So my main project is we're building design systems. So bridging the gap between design and development, and also working on graphic design for virtual events as well. And at night, after kind of like working 9 to 5, I usually during the noontime, I like going out for a run. This is why I love remote working. I literally went on a run like an hour ago because I can do that anytime between meetings, which is always great to get a nice break during the day. And then around after 5 p.m. or sometimes if I have like other meetings related to design buddies or speaking events, I would work extra at night or work extra the day before, which is why I love remote working. At night, I mostly sync with partners for design buddies, team meetings, and mostly design buddy stuff. Sometimes I draw, and sometimes I like go on my spin bike and respond to messages as well. So that's how I keep up. And yeah, I'm almost trying to learn personal finance or just like learn something new each day as well. And I'm also a part-time student. I actually am in grad school. I'm also 23 and I graduated from college like 2 years ago, and I decided to take on a full-time job while in grad school. So twice a week I have class. And how I'm able to manage it all is because I'm already have a job. So I don't have to I just had to pass. So that's how I was able to like manage my time. And yeah, that's how my day is. Just a bunch of like things going on and a lot of coffee. Try to sleep more.
Oh, wow. You guys are making me feel so old. I recently turned 30. Woo. But I'd say my day-to-day is probably very similar to Grace because I'm also a product designer and a lead. So at Kinza, it's a little bit complex because we do about 1,000 things. We make smart thermometers. We also have a philanthropic school program called Fluency. That's a large word. Where we're able to partner with big companies like Lysol and Clorox, and they pay for thermometers, and we're able to go into underserved communities and provide this health program and the thermometers for free to every family in these schools to try to prevent illness, keep families, communities safe, and kids in class learning. Then we've also got our mobile app that connects with the thermometer so you can track temperatures, help people get care recommendations based on their fever level and symptoms for ages like newborns to, I think we go to age 99. And that guidance is specific based on your age. So right now, for example, we're able to help people track COVID and COVID-like symptoms and like keep track of that so they can share that information with their doctor. And then we've also got our data business, which helps keep, we're anonymously aggregating this data, which helps us provide this information to like local health officials in counties across the country so they can use that data to kind of set the standards for their local area, whether that's telling people to mask up more frequently or telling people to not dine in or things like that, setting those rules. And so between all of those different things, my day-to-day can look very different, but secretly I can tell you we're currently trying to develop a new thermometer that's non-contact. So I've had a lot of experience trying out that test device, feeling out what a non-contact thermometer is like. We do a lot of user testing. So talking to people all across the country about their experience with our products, working with PMs and engineers to make sure we can build out our solutions, and taking a really critical lens on the changing news environment on COVID, like how will vaccines becoming more prevalent and accessible change what information we're providing to people in our 1,000 products that we have. We don't know, we're kind of figuring that out as we go, but it's been really exciting to be able to help people right now.
Wow, that seems really interesting. It seems like you guys all do a whole wide variety of things, and it's cool to see that not every day is the same, and also kind of how you balance such busy schedules. Um, and so I think we already touched on, some of you may have touched on this question before, but I was wondering, what is the reason you chose to pursue design?
I think a long-winded answer to that is because I couldn't figure out anything else I liked to do better. When I was really passionate about art classes in high school and didn't really give a ton of thought to what I wanted to do afterwards. And because of that, I ended up at community college, which I think was a great choice for me, because I didn't want to spend a ton of money going to a state school while I was trying to figure it out. So I got the opportunity to take a bunch of like the I Get C classes that you need to transfer and just dabbling in a bunch of stuff. I almost went into psychology, but realized that probably wasn't for me. But having that background's been really valuable in design and empathizing with different people. And once I got into design, I found that there's a whole bunch of different types of design, right? A whole bunch of different types of niches that made it even more interesting to me. I tried to go to college at CSU San Bernardino, ended up hating it. Moral of the story is it's okay to try it out and fail and go somewhere else. So I transferred to Chico, loved the program and the type of design they were teaching there. And that's where I learned to love app design. Although I'm going to age myself here. 7 years ago, product design wasn't a thing. So when I started working in San Francisco, I learned what product design was, learned how to get there, and then eventually moved into product design. And I think moral of that story is it's okay to not know what you want to do. It's okay to fail, transfer to different colleges, start working in the field, and find the niche that speaks to you, even if it didn't exist while you were learning. And now I'm doing something that I love, and it didn't even exist as a career when I was in college. So
Yeah.
oh, and also probably making people's lives better every day is probably why I love my job.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also like didn't know what product design was, product/UX design was until like 2 years ago. But growing up in high school, I never imagined myself ever studying in STEM. I was always that random kid in class who was always like a class clown who always screamed in class to keep people on their toes. I was like I never saw myself, I was like a horrible student as well. Well, not really invested in my grades. I like playing games and drawing. I just saw myself as like an anime artist or a game designer. And I would always draw comics in class. I would never really pay attention either. But then because in high school, I took this class called AP Biology, and I loved it because I was like learning about these things like cellular respiration, how to like breathe more oxygen so I can make more ATP so I can run faster. I felt like that was so amazing. I wanted to learn more so I can like and optimize myself to run faster, because that was also another passion of mine. Running cross country and track, I had like big dreams to run Olympics as well. And I thought bioengineering would give me the knowledge to take me there, to like biohack myself. And that was why I studied bioengineering in college, for the sole purpose of learning how to biohack myself. And I just thought there was so much cool applications. There's like genetic engineering and things like that. However, I was in a research lab doing gene therapy. My favorite part of that lab, working with cells, was taking photos of my cells and overlaying them in Photoshop to make them look pretty. I did not enjoy any of the lab work, but I love the Photoshop work and the visual stuff like that. And so after 2 years of doing research, that was my freshman and sophomore year of college, my advisor would notice I always get so excited when I talk about games, but not the same excitement when I talk about the research for cells. So he was like, "Do you really want to do this?" I was like, "No." I was really afraid to quit because it was like really hard to get into the lab, and I felt like the whole time I was honestly just doing it for my resume. So if anybody is out here like doing things for resume, like it might be okay for the first few years, but then you'll later start to feel it and like hate every second of it, which is me. And that is okay as well. Even looks at your resume, it's okay to not enjoy it because there's always something else out there. And so during that time, a virtual reality lab opened up my school. So this was 2018, Santa Clara University. So I started looking at online tutorials on how to 3D model, how to make VR games. So at first I was actually doing game design and development. And after doing a few internships in game design and development, I actually interned at Intuitive Surgical last summer as a virtual reality robotic surgery game developer intern. So kind of integrated like bioengineering, surgery, and also game design. I realized I don't like coding, and that is okay as well. Like, I think I studied CS and made myself like coding because because my dad's in computer engineering, and all my life he's like, you should code. That's like the right thing to do or something. But after like interning in that, I really didn't like it. I loved like level design, and that's how I looked more into level design, user experience, and that's how I got into UX and product design. And I really love that field because it really integrates like storytelling, visual design, like my early interest in drawing manga, but also systems thinking, solving problems from my engineering background. And that's why I really enjoy design.
Well, Grace, at least you know how to draw, right? I honestly did not know how to draw, and I went to art school knowing no basic in drawing at all. And that was really hard. I feel like my first 2 years of art school was really, really hard. But I think what really drew me to design specifically was, the art of influencing others. If you look at like advertising and marketing, you're really trying to figure out like what makes this product desirable or this service really, being wanted by people. How can this really make someone's life better? I think that would really got me interested, just trying to figure out like, how did they do that? Like what goes like into creating such big brands, and what can a small brand do with, branding and marketing, and how can, they start building that brand equity. And I think that what really got me interested in terms of like design in general. And I also play around with Photoshop when I was in college, obviously, and that was super fun. And I did not really realize that there was a lot of different design branches out there, right? I mean, in general, you just know like graphic design when I got into art school, but I didn't even realize that there was more into it. There is like, you can become an illustrator if you really enjoy drawing. You can choose to be illustrator. You don't have to be a graphic designer or like a logo designer if you don't want to. And there's like digital aspect of it. You can become a web designer or UI UX designer. I feel like right now the options is just like limitless in my opinion. But I didn't even know that there's like such a variety of options within design. But I think, in essence, design is creating something that can help people have a better life. So I think that the essence of it, and I feel like we all fallen into it because it gives us a purpose in a sense, but it also exciting at the same time.
Wow. So, what would you guys say has been the biggest obstacle in your journey so far, and how did you guys overcome it?
I would certainly say rejection is something that I'm constantly overcoming and is a huge part of anyone's entrepreneurial journey. So the more I always think of rejection as, instead of thinking of it as rejection, think of it as reflection and redirect. Every no I find becomes a yes in 2 years, sometimes 3 years. So just don't give up when someone rejects you. And in real life and also in business too.
Yeah, I remember you told me this before, but it was how you talked about how you only need really one yes and you can have like 1,000 no's. And I still remember that's been really, really helpful for everyone. Does anyone else have any big experiences or obstacles?
I would say also rejection. And when I came to design at first, I was definitely ghosted by like everyone I applied to. So from context, I decided to switch to design October 2019 and did 5 months of searching for internships. I just got ghosted everywhere. And what helped me the most was asking for feedback after getting rejections. And most of the time they would say no, but the fact that you ask for feedback, it shows the other person that you are proactive, you want to improve yourself, so they'll remember you next time. And also sometimes you get like really valuable feedback from people. So keeping an open mind is also helpful. But what I struggled with most was being told no, like being told no by like parents. Like they thought I had to like do coding because I thought my strengths were in coding. So like, are you sure don't want to pursue engineering? And also my professors. Like I remember in my office hours, like I was a grader for the head of the bioengineering department at my school as a grad student. And he literally sat down with me and like for 45 minutes, he was telling me everything wrong I was doing. He was comparing me to his 14-year-old daughter who apparently does design. He didn't even know like I was drawing for all this time. And he just like tried to compare myself to his daughter, saying that and using that to say that I'm unqualified for design. And I also had professors at my other professors telling me, you are such a good engineer, like you're like wasting your talent if you're not going to engineering. And they try to like guilt trip me and stuff. So being rejected, I'm not being rejected, but being kind of like rejected by other people and pursuing that path was also a biggest obstacle. But then I realized that no matter, I feel like this is a lot of thing, like something that a lot of like Silicon Valley or like even kids with parents who had want their kids to pursue something struggle with as well, is that you should pursue what you actually want to do. Because after being in a position of doing internships and engineering, I realized that wasn't a path for me, and that is okay, because once you find the path you want to do the most, then you'll like enjoy your life the most, and you'll be able to ultimately make more money and do a better job in that too.
Yes, definitely. Agree with all of that Grace has been saying. For me, I think imposter syndrome has been a really big struggle for me in the past. Moving from a small island, Bali, to the big city, Chicago, it was really hard, to be honest. And I found myself like trying to reinvent everything from scratch and just like building a network from scratch. That was very intimidating, like, you know, seeing these amazing people, amazing women that I would go to the networking events, and just this imposter syndrome just creeping in behind me. I was like, you're not good enough. Like, these are accomplished women, and who are you to be in the same room as these amazing women? So I almost feel like that has been quite an interesting experiences, in my opinion. I feel like, you know, imposter syndrome never gonna go away, right? I think it's just a matter of like, are you gonna be okay getting comfortable having that around you, but still challenge yourself to push yourself forward? And I feel like, you know, having people that really knows how amazing you are, how you are so passionate about what you do, also has been very helpful. My husband has always been there for me, and I feel like I have a lot of different people that I can always share my struggles with as well, and they will remind me, hey Ari, you are also kicking ass, you are doing great, don't ever forget that. Because it's so easy to compare ourselves with others, right? We see all of these like great accomplished people on social media, and you sometimes will be asking, it's like, what am I doing with my life so far? It's like, am I really accomplishing anything just yet? But if you really look at like the past things that you have, even if someone send you maybe like a thank you note or things that you have created in the past, so people save those. And I think that can be really great inspiration for you to just kind of remind yourself, like, here are some great things that I'm really, really proud of, even though they're small, but this was very important for me. So yeah, there's that.
I was gonna say imposter syndrome too. Like, it's been a wild ride. And even at my age, like, it doesn't go away. I can tell you it doesn't go away. It was there when I was a junior. And now that I lead a team, now I just worry about leading my team. It just evolves. And you kind of find different ways to live with it. But I'd say one of my biggest career obstacles, though, was when in the beginning of my career, I worked as a graphic designer, and I was just trying to explore like all the different things you can basically design as a brand and logo and graphic designer. And I worked for this really small company out in the East Bay. I hadn't made my connections to the design community or started working with mentors myself. I was really cut off. I didn't have like a ton of support, which is really important for women in STEM. And it just so happens I worked for a guy that liked to hire young women and then manipulate them emotionally. And it was really terrible. And he would basically just like berate us. It was me and this other girl, and we were like in our early 20s, when you're like very fragile and starting out in your career, and you kind of need that support and that push to feel good, right? In various ways. And this guy was just terrible. He was a horrible boss. And I only worked there for 5 months before I had a breakdown and I quit like on the same day. I just woke up, I was dreading going to work. I had anxiety and it was terrible. And he used to just, I'd try to present my work and he would like stand over me and nitpick everything and just like ruin me. And I would cry and it was terrible. It was a horrible experience. And when I quit, I really questioned whether design was for me. Like, was I good enough? And it was really challenging. And I ended up going to like therapy, which I totally think everybody should go to if they're struggling, for a couple months trying to figure it out. And it basically, at the end of it, she was like, you just had a bad boss and that's okay. And you quit. And that was the best thing that you could have done, which quitting a job is really hard if you guys haven't done that yet, because it feels like you're giving up. So all I'd like to say is like, do what is in your best interest, because nobody will take care of you more than you can take care of you. Remember to stand up for yourself. And if you need to quit, then quit, because quitting was the best thing I ever did. Found out I didn't really love graphic design. Went to the city, found my community, found a mentor, found Kinza, became a product designer. Like, things get better. But bad stuff happens too.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a lot of us watching were young high school students about to go into college or start working and like internships. So I think just hearing about how you guys have overcome or just dealt with these obstacles and what you've learned is really inspiring and definitely useful to us. So thank you. Um, and then I also just wanted to know, where do you think you could have done better, or what would you have changed with the information you've kind of learned or know now?
I would probably have changed how impatient I am. I would have realized that the things that take longer, it doesn't mean that it's not working out. It's just a matter of timing. I think also being sensitive in business can be a really kind of debilitating thing, because you have to learn how to handle your emotions personally and not bring them into your business life. And that's really hard for anyone to do. So I certainly would say to practice being patient. If you find yourself really impatient or anxious about something, go on a run. I think someone said that that's what they do earlier, or meditate or listen to music. And don't get super upset about things, because you'll forget in a week.
And for me, I also feel like being patient is so super important, and also like nobody will remember in like a day. So I try to like live life with no regrets as well. And for me, like back before, I would regret like, oh, I feel like I should have majored in art. Like, why did I choose bioengineering? But I realized that like every decision I made shaped me to who I am today. And I would like to not live like think about like what I would regret, but I would just think about like things I've learned along the way. Because I struggled with that before. I was like, I felt so much imposter syndrome because I didn't study design, versus I'm seeing all the people my age who study design as like full-time designers already, back like last year. And I felt like so like such a small potato. So that's how I felt like. And so I just try to see as every step of my journey, everything I do in life is always like a learning journey. And every time, it's even though if you are in a major you don't like, or in a position you don't like, the fact that you tried something and didn't like it, that's also really, really important, because you would never know if you never tried. And so nothing is wasted. Everything kind of shapes everybody to who they are today.
So growing up, did you guys look up to any role models? Do you have anyone that you kind of admired, and why did you admire them?
Role models. I would say business-wise, I'm a huge fan of Sarah Blakely. She's the founder of Spanx. I think that she is an incredible inspiration. Sheryl Sandberg as well, Michelle Obama. And then personally, I certainly feel inspired by young adults. I think it's really so cool to see someone's journey and how they evolve. I agree. Sarah Blakely has a great class. Yeah, master class is awesome. So like everyone on here is my new inspiration. So just keep meeting people, keep learning, and staying inspired.
Okay, I think that's actually really interesting to see how you kind of learn from your role model. Um, and then also, were there any specific habits that you've gained over time that have contributed to your success in the workplace or helped you kind of balance your busy schedules?
I would say setting boundaries is really big. I got a big burnout in the past couple of years, and it honestly sucked. I feel like if you really enjoy what you do and you don't mind doing that 24/7, that's great. But I think you will get burnout from doing all of that. And I didn't really value like self-care, and it was honestly the biggest mistake in my opinion. Like when you don't have a clear, set of boundaries, it's very easy for others to just like, get to you. They would want to get your attention like in every step of the way. And I feel like when you don't have set time for just like creating that self-care for yourself, it's very easy for you to get really really lost in a sense, because you feel like you're grinding so many hours, right? You're hustling every single time, and it always feels like this is not going to end. Your checklist, not checklist, but your to-do list just keep growing longer and longer, and just like frustrating. But in a sense, I almost feel like if you can create like a balance that you imagine for your life, do it as soon as possible. It's going to save you a lot of time, and also going to save you a lot of stress in the future. Imagine even if you don't have family right now, right? I feel like I only start getting into self-care and everything around boundaries when I start having family. But even if you don't have that, I think it's very good for you to start building your own like morning routine, if that's something that you really like to do. Or in a sense, like what would be something that you really enjoy to do that is not work, something that you can feel like you're feeling fulfilled outside of work. And I feel like that is really important. And I feel like that has been something that in the past couple of years that I really have to implement, very strictly, simply because I do not want to go into that burnout space anymore, because it's just really suck. So that's the big thing. And I almost feel like, journaling is also a big thing for me too these days, because it helps me really understand like, okay, what has happened? I mean, what did I go through? Is there something that I noticed about myself, something that I want to change, or is there something that I would love to do more of? So I think those are a couple of different ways that I hope can also help you.
For me, I'd probably say talking about career skills, right? I think over communicating and empathizing have been really, really important in design. And obviously user experience has the word user in it, but when we think about it, it's like we design things for people, and we may not always be our user. For example, Kinza's main app user is millennial moms with kids. I'm a millennial, but I don't have kids. And that's like a very different lifestyle and a very different experience. So when I design experiences, I talk to everybody I can that is a mom in that age group that has kids, because they're going to know best, right? I can make a call as a designer, as a design gut, but empathizing has been great. And that goes beyond who you're designing for. It's also incredibly important to empathize with the people that you're working with on your team. Like, one of the principles we live by at Kinza is that when a new product or feature goes out, it should feel like a team effort to get that out. You have your PMs, your product managers that the designers work with, as well as your engineers. And so it's really a team effort to get something out and into the world for people to use and experience and enjoy. But it's a balance of empathizing with your users and the business and your team to get things done. And that's so incredibly important. For example, you might design something that's like flashy and new and great, but it might take your engineers 3 months to build. If you empathize with them and talk to them and say like, hey, could you help me brainstorm on a different way to build this really cool experience that doesn't also drag you through the mud, you will make friends. You do not want to burn those bridges. Your engineers are your lifeline. And so really trying to understand other people's work and what they do, understanding how it's contributing to the broader goal of what you're trying to accomplish. Like, everybody in that system is important and does something, and understanding that will make you a better team player, a better employee, and a better person. So
Yeah, I would say empathizing also super important, also setting boundaries, and also self-awareness as a designer, knowing your strengths and weaknesses and being able to work with a team. But also when you're empathizing with users, knowing like your own biases when you're doing user testing and trying to understand like demographic that you're designing for, and things like that. And I feel like how I got better at that was actually asking for feedback a lot. Asking feedback super important, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you ask for feedback, it also shows the other person that you're always willing to improve. So over communicating, asking for feedback, having self-awareness, your strengths and weaknesses, and having mentors is something that I found super helpful as I just started my full-time job in December 2020. So it's been like a few months. I've actually interned 6 months prior, so I've been learning like so much along the way as well, and just keeping an open mind. And in the past, I would assume like I would have too much ego, like I would like sound too arrogant. But as I'm kind of progressing through the field, I've learned to kind of put ego aside and just like be open-minded, open to hearing everybody's opinions, and on the team, also from the users I'm designing for, and just keeping an open mind, being self-aware, and designing for the user.
That's amazing. So our last question we have for all the speakers is, do you have any advice for us as high school students?
I would just say, don't get caught up in thinking that you have to be an influencer or an entrepreneur, because that's the cool thing to do. There's so many jobs out there. I think Mahi can totally like attest to that as well, that are very much needing people like yourself, nurses and doctors. But if this is the path similar to specifically mine and the group of panelists, then I would certainly say do something because you love it. Don't go into anything expecting to make money or become famous or successful. Do it if you love it, and then the rest will come.
I would say enjoy your life, to be honest. I miss being a teenager, not being, bombarded with so many different responsibilities. I think this is your time to just like really figuring out, okay, what makes you happy? I mean, like really ask yourself, because I think you will fall back to that again when you get into your 20s, when you get into your 30s. You're going to ask yourself this question so many times. And honestly, this is a time for you to just really be yourself. Ask a friend to just like, hang out, or just like be happy. To be honest, I feel like I've met a few different people who always ask me like, if I could change what I had gone through when I was in high school, what would that be? I would just say like, not really caring about like what would I be or what I would become, right? Because it will come naturally to you, because you will find that calling, you will find what you really truly love, and you will find those. I mean, you will follow the path, whatever that might be. You might not have the answer right now, and that is okay, to be honest. Don't worry about it, because you will find those. Just, be patient. I think we already talked about that earlier. And look around you, what inspire you. I think you can always find that, because you need to have some of those inspiration first. But honestly, don't take everything too seriously. Enjoy your time as a teenager.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I feel like I would always try out as many things as possible. Right now, you're in a position where you don't have anybody who depends on you. You don't have a family to feed. Really join as many clubs, not break as many things, but try out as many things as possible. Make things, break things, learn from it. And for me, when I was personally in high school, I felt like there was some kind of like social hierarchy. Like I feel like for me, I kind of fell for the pressure to be like quote unquote popular, but in reality, like usually you don't talk to anyone in high school, like really rarely and anymore. So don't worry about being popular. Don't do things that you enjoy. Don't try to like wear clothes or do different things just to fit in with a specific crowd, because I was that loner random nerd kid in high school who ran cross country and track, and I didn't have too many friends. Most of my friends are online. And don't worry about being popular. Do things what you enjoy. And that's and then most of the people in high school, I don't usually talk to them anymore anyway, so don't worry about them at all. And usually people become much more nicer after high school as well. Like I had people who I was actually bullied a lot as a kid. And I had people who bullied me, ask me, how do I get into design? Like, how do I get into EA? Like 10 years later. So it's kind of crazy, but people change in high school as well. So that's like just something I struggled with a lot in high school before.
I would say it's okay to say, I don't know what I want to do. I remember when I was graduating high school or getting close to that, and the closer you get to it, the more people start asking you where you're going, what colleges you've applied to, what are all the things you've accomplished in your life. And it's like, I'm like 17 or 18, so like not much. And that's okay. It really is okay. I mean, I've got cousins who have recently graduated, and they're so stressed out because they feel like they were pushed to do all these extracurricular activities and all of this volunteering and all of these other things that they personally weren't passionate about in order to get into these colleges. And it's just insane, because I totally agree that this should be your time to shine and really like live your life how you want to live it. Well, you don't have all the responsibilities of, for example, a 30-year-old. You don't want these responsibilities right now. Like, live your life, figure out the things that you want to do and enjoy, and don't put all of this pressure on yourself. It's okay to not know. I thought I had it figured out. I ended up at community college. I thought I had it figured out after that when I went to CSU San Bernardino. Turns out I hated it. And I hated admitting that I was wrong. But if I hadn't stumbled and fallen and then worked for a bunch of startups that ended up failing in San Francisco, I would have never ended up at Kinza. Like, it's okay to fail. And it's okay if your parents are constantly asking you what you want to do and you say, I don't know. You're 18. I would be really, really surprised if you 100% knew, or if you got into college and like it was a straight line. There's this expectation that like, okay, I do all the schooling, I apply to all the colleges, I get the career, I live my life, whatever. And it's never like that. There's 1,000 talks probably on TED Talk and in the design community about this idea of a crooked career path. It's because nobody's career path is perfect. Everybody's stumbled and tripped and fallen and like dipped their toes in a bunch of stuff and then found the thing that really speaks to them. And now they're happy, truly happy in the career that they're doing. So like, don't be afraid to go on that tangent. Take the road less traveled. Do it.
Thank you so much for all of your insights, and we really appreciate it. We will now be moving on to the Q&A for the last 15 minutes. So I know Alexa has to go at like 4. So try to put in as many questions as you can for her, because she'll have to leave in a couple of minutes. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, just put it in the Q&A, and we'll try to get to it, as many as we can.
Yeah, so you can just type them in the Q&A. And so I think our first question, anyone can take this. Someone asked, if you weren't doing the job you were doing today, what do you think you'd be doing?
I have to run literally right now, so I'm going to answer these as fast as possible. I would be a lawyer, super into legal stuff. My parents, I know a lot of people also struggle with that. I think the best thing you can do is tell your parents as much as necessary. I don't find that you have to tell them everything. Like if you're like me and you were the kid who I literally moved out and like didn't tell my parents and figured out how to make money. And it was like kind of the worst thing to do. That being said, I really think that not always telling your parents everything. If you find yourself to be a little bit different, or maybe you're thinking you don't know if you want to go to college, keep some of that stuff to yourself. See if you can figure out how to prove it to them in the meantime, before like scaring your parents. Was it challenging to find? I didn't go to college, so I can't attest to that one. How do you know when to quit something? If you're thinking about quitting something for over 6 months, I think you should quit. Like if I'm thinking about something for 6 months, I'll do it. So if you're thinking about not doing something for 6 months, definitely quit, and live that unfiltered, fearless life. This was awesome. Anyone please connect with me. So great to meet all the speakers. Sorry I have to go, but they have great answers too. So have an awesome rest of your day. Bye guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. So I guess then the rest of the speakers, you can take some of these questions. If anyone wants to answer the first question, if you weren't doing the job you were doing today, what do you think you'd be doing?
Grace, you want to go first?
Oh yeah, sure. So when I was in high school, when I graduated high school, I was really, really influenced by my peers, and like everyone at Lindbergh at least seemed like they had it all figured out. And I thought I was like all my life, professors, kids, parents are always like doctor, engineer, lawyer. That's like the only path they can go. So I wanted to be a doctor and engineer, and I wanted to become like an MD, PhD, because both my parents have PhDs, and since I was 4, they're like, you're gonna get a PhD too. And so I want to become an MD, PhD, bioengineer, neurosurgeon, do some research on how neuroscience relates to reducing pain and running so I can biohack myself to run faster. So that was my goal. And also had big goals in running. I wanted to run in the Olympics, and I had like a really big lifestyle blog. So continuing that up as a motivational speaker as well, and an anime artist. So that was what I thought I would be doing when I graduated high school. Was my goal. I remember I was studying for the MCAT when I was like 16, and I did not have a childhood. Well, I did have a childhood, but I feel like looking back, I should have been enjoying my childhood more instead of worrying about a test that I would probably take in like 5 years. So yeah, that's what I thought I would be doing. And how I convinced my parents that I wanted to pursue like something non-STEM is that for me, what worked is, because both my parents are in STEM, is actually trying it out and letting them know like, hey, I tried it and I didn't like it. My dad was like, so my dad, he grew up, he wanted to be an astronomer, but he taught himself to like convince himself to like computer engineering. He was like, you can do the same, but it's not true. Like your parents are not always right, and that is okay as well. And yeah, and how do you know how to quit something? It's when I stopped getting energy to do it. I stopped enjoying it. I looked forward to going home every day. And yeah, I can't answer Grace's question because I never personally experienced that. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure which. So how about what is your favorite part of your jobs today?
I'd say my favorite part of my job today is knowing that we're able to help people during COVID. So one of the reasons why I love our product is because my niece has special needs, and one of her special needs involves a fever syndrome that gets triggered right before she's going to have a seizure. And so my sister actually uses our product to track her temperature and her fevers, and then she's able to give her medication before the seizure starts by being able to use that together. And then because it's all tracked in the app, she can like send a text or a message to the doctor so that he's got all that information, and it's got a timestamp of like when everything's happening. And so that was like a real direct connection to home, that this is like making a difference in people's lives. And like one time she had to call an ambulance for her, and she was able to like show her phone to the paramedics when they arrived, and they were able to make a better assessment of my niece's condition based on that. And so like making that day-to-day difference has been really important, but also we've been able to provide helpful information around COVID in the app and give people like live up-to-date stuff so they can protect themselves. I don't know, it's always been really heartwarming to do user testing and hear firsthand how something that you worked on that like is cool, but really doesn't seem like a huge deal, has like changed someone's life. Like this is something I could have never thought of before. I could have never accomplished this. And it seems like something very simple. You just like add it into an app and they're like, no, this is changing my life. And it's amazing to be able to do that.
Thank you. That sounds very inspiring, just knowing like that you want to help people and how it's kind of touched your lives and others too. Thank you for sharing that.
I want to answer Divya Sarkar question. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Please do let me know if I don't do that correctly. How did you cope with your parents' disapproval of interests or choices? I think that's going to be very interesting, in my opinion, right? If your parents really love you, to be honest, in my opinion, every parent would want their kids to be happy. That's literally the end goal. I mean, me as a parent right now, I know exactly how my parents who could have felt back then. And even though it wasn't necessarily their choice, it is your choice. I think as long as you can communicate that, you know, very lovingly and gently to them instead of like yelling and stuff. I did that in the past, so don't do that. I almost feel like they will understand. They just need to understand like, what is your perspective in here, right? They want some sort of like they want somebody to assure them that things gonna be okay. They want to make sure that you are gonna be okay. So as long as you can tell them, I'm okay with this, even though that I will struggle figuring things out on my own, I'll be fine. I just need your support. I think that's the biggest thing that I would recommend for you to do. Just talk heart to heart to your parents. I know it can be very very weird as a teenager to do that, but honestly, your parents are going to really appreciate it. They just need to understand like what's going on in your head right now. How can they help? How can they support? If you know what their want is not your want, help them understand why. And I think you'll be amazed on, once you get an understanding and really understand what their point of view and why they feel what they feel, it will be an amazing experience. I trust that's going to happen to you, simply because, you just have to believe your parents are going to support you no matter what.
Yeah, to Divya's question to me as well, I've also just like had conversations with my parents. Like I've tried engineering and I tried everything you told me to do, and I find much more enjoyment doing art. And at the end of the day, usually in most cases, I also have immigrant parents as well. And most of the time they just like want to support you. They just want to see you happy. And as long as, like for me, as long as I proved that I tried it, they were like okay with it. And at the end of the day, like if at first they didn't see like the purpose of me going into design, and they're kind of just like, but I also lived on campus, so like that distance also kind of helped with it as well. So I feel like just as I grow older and as they grow older and just like learn more, they'll start to understand more, because I feel like as I get older, the less and less I care about what other people think, including what my parents think of me. And so I feel like for me it just gets better, I guess. So that's how I personally cope with it.
I can speak to the what are your favorite design programs to use. My favorite is Sketch. There's a ton of different programs like Sketch, Figma, Adobe XD, and then also like the Adobe Creative Suite, like Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever that you can use. Sketch has become really popular, and Figma is really popular because it's web-based, so it's like better for commenting and collaborating, but we personally use Sketch at Kinza. And it's vector-based design, so it's not really good for photography stuff. That's all Photoshop, but it's really great for web design, app design, everything like that. We use InVision for managing our design system, which is the Craft plugin, as well as user testing, where we make prototypes that people can click through. And then we also use usertesting.com for connecting with new people. I'm trying to see what else is in here. How has the pandemic affected or changed your work experience? That's a big one. I would say a lot of what Ari spoke to earlier, like burnout is real. Kinza ended up in a weird position where we happened to be in a position to do a lot of good with what our business model is set up to do. And so we kind of went into hyperdrive. We were a startup of like 30 people right before the pandemic hit, and now we're almost at 100 in like a year, which is insane. We went into rapid growth mode. And so it's been really challenging to like meet new people remotely, and you're not able to build those in-person relationships that can be so critical to communicating. You have to find new tools for like brainstorming and working together. As a lead, we had to hire, so I had to hire new designers, and not being able to meet them in person and kind of get a feel for that relationship is hard. I had designers I'd already worked with in the office for a year, and then we hired new ones, and it's kind of hard to like manage those relationships when you've just like, you never met these people in person before, like you know, it's hard to communicate, but it's really like the workload quadrupled, and it's like I could barely drag myself out of bed in the morning before the Christmas holiday. So made some real life adjustments this year, set boundaries. I know we talked about that. And also just, I guess that's setting boundaries, but like I told people to stop contacting me after like 5 p.m. It's like really important. Like, don't contact me or you're not gonna like what you hear back.
I'd love to kind of answer the question from one of the question here. It says, if I feel very lukewarm about something, like I don't hate it, but I don't love it either, but I'm too afraid to quit because I've made so many commitments for it, what should I do? I would ask yourself honestly, and only honestly, answer the question, does this make you happy? If it's not, I would say explore other options, right? Find what truly makes you happy. because again, you only live once and you're gonna regret it to just like working in something that you truly, truly hate and feel miserable. I mean, what for, right? I mean, I recently watched the not anime. So we were talking about anime earlier. Animation movie from Disney called Soul it's really good. You should probably go watch that. And it's really clear, like, what is it that you really want in life, right? I think you are the only one who has that answer. And I would say it's never too late to start something, even if you already have a big commitment on one passion or one set of careers. If you really feel like this is no longer for you, and that's okay, you can always explore something else. And chances are, whatever you chose in the future, you probably can still use all of those skills that you have in the past, because that builds who you are today.
I can talk a little bit about, do you find there are equal numbers of men and women in the design field? I think it was very biased when I was in school, like surprisingly, it was like 90% women in my class and like a handful of men. And what I was told was that when you got into the industry, it was like heavily male dominated. And I've had like mixed experiences with that. I worked at some companies where there were more men than women, half and half at Kinza, where actually most of our product and design team is women, and that's not purposefully, that's just because of the people that we ended up hiring. So I would say, like, don't be afraid of that. Like I've worked with a lot of amazing people, men and women, and I've worked with some terrible people, men and women. So it's, I wouldn't be afraid of getting into design either way. I would just say that, like, it's challenging for women in general in STEM fields. There's like a consistent dropout rate for women in STEM fields every single year because they often don't feel supported. So I would say if you get into one of those fields, like, connect with your community, because they will be there for you and they will answer your questions. And like, I've hired people through my community. I've found people to work with because I connected with a random person on LinkedIn at a design event from like a year ago. Like, your connections matter, and getting out there and finding your support communities is everything. So find your people.
+1 on finding that, because sometimes now we're all digital, so you can join online communities even if you don't have communities in real life. Like at my school, we don't have a design program, but I found in my own community, or you can join other communities online as well. So the world is all open, so don't ever feel like you're restricted in any way if you don't have any support system in your real life.
Okay, so I guess that wraps up our Q&A. Thank you to the speakers for taking the time to share your stories and advice. And thank you to the audience for attending this. And we couldn't have done it with all your support.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was very interesting to hear what you guys had to say, and just about your career and how you got to where you are today. And the advice that you guys have given us is definitely very useful. So thank you. I will be using that in the future. And that wraps up the first speaker series of 2021. Thank you all so much for coming. And any of the participants, please feel free to log off the webinar now or stay on if you have any questions for Mahi and I.
So I have to go to another speaking event, but this was fun, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
thank you.
Bye,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.